Good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. Uh, it's funny, I've been doing these lives for almost 1,000 times, and I just now am hearing our nuclear power plant warning sound go off. I usually have all these airplanes flying around because I'm near the Nav Air Protection River base, and I usually hear them flying around, but hearing these alarms are kind of crazy. Okay, so let me get rocking and rolling here, just trying to get my ducks in a row. I'm back after a little bit. I was sick for a while. We had Thanksgiving coming up, but I'm excited about today's topic. So let me just get myself set up, and I think I'm good to go. And we can rock and roll. Let's get started talking about the Army PEO Enterprise, Program Executive Office Enterprise. This is one of the major ones out there related to IT services. And I thought I'd come along and give you an introduction of their office, their organization. And I'm giving it from my perspective, right? I'm not trying to speak on behalf of PEO Enterprise. I'm speaking as if I'm in your office and you're like, hey, what's PEO Enterprise? Well, let me give you a 20-minute overview of what PEO Enterprise is. The reason I chose PEO Enterprise as one of the first ones I'm doing out of the gate is because there was two lessons that I picked up over the lessons that they learned over the last, 2 to 3, 4 months ago. These two lessons really sunk in with me that they learned, and I was striking to me. The first one is related to the contracting officers and senior leaders within PEO Enterprise, and not picking any particular person out, but this is a mind shift lesson learned that it was staggeringly great to me that they learned. So anyways, the lesson was that for years, decades actually, for this one particular contracting officer I'm thinking of, they always tended to lean on large businesses. They could rely on large businesses. In federal government contracting, for the buyer side, there was a line that people used to use all the time that no one could get in trouble for buying from IBM or from Lockheed Martin, right? You went with a tried and true company, and if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But if you went with a small business, it was like, you took this unnecessary risk. And that's not really the case. But because of that, buyers in particular tended to get biased towards large businesses. Anyways, this KO engaged with a small business and brought him in on the innovation side, and was just shocked immediately on how great it was to be working with a small business. The small business was responsive. They were able to be very innovative because that's what they do. And they didn't really have any bureaucratic levels to their company. They just had pure, hey, let's get the work done. Let's get to the mission, right? Not that larges don't think that way, but when you've got bureaucracy in there, it slows things down. With the smalls, it was an eye opener. And so inside of PEO Enterprise, there was this awareness or mind shift of, man, maybe smalls are pretty good. And then the second lesson that came out of there was recently, this guy, Colonel Paul, did, and you might see him in a minute, but he did a video recently, and he was talking about this lesson. And I describe it as the Army's moving at Silicon Valley speed, because he described this lesson of, he brought PEO Enterprise developers into a room with a bunch of Army recruiters from the field, real world recruiters doing full-time recruiting, trying to build up the Army base. Anyways, he brought them into a room and said, hey, we've got this recruiting app for you. It's awesome. We think it's awesome, but we need you to beat it up. Just tear it to pieces and tell us anything that's wrong with it. And within the course of a day, those recruiters just tore it to pieces. They created this list, I think, of something like 100 different things that are wrong with this application. And so what happened was, as the recruiters went away for dinner, the developers went away and put their heads down all through the night, and they nailed every one of those 100 problems that the recruiters had identified. We don't like this. This thing doesn't work. We wish this was better, right? The developers knocked all that stuff out, came back on the second day, and were able to bring that app up to the level that those recruiters are like, oh my God, that will make my job so much easier. And that's why I call it a Silicon Valley speed. And PEO Enterprise is leading this push of getting the Army to be moving at Silicon Valley speed, where you want something to come out top quality and works for the customer, but you don't want to spend so long developing, we say 6 to 24 months or something. You want to spend 6 to 24 days on getting things out to the soldiers in the field. And that's pretty much where PEO Enterprise is trying to go and trying to lead the way in agile software development, et cetera, is how can we get stuff to the people in the field, the soldiers in the field, to make their job easier, to help them accomplish the mission. So that's what I want to talk about today, is just give you an overview of PEO Enterprise. My goal is that you get inspired and want to go learn a lot more about them, go support them, get in there and meet with them, et cetera. If that's what you're thinking about for today's training, put "I support the Army" in the comments. I want to see that across the board, right? I support the Army. Okay, so I'm going to cover down on a lot of stuff, and I got a feeling I might run out of time, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. I'll try to go through the slides fast, and you can come back. But a couple of main things I want to talk about: what the PEO Enterprise organization is. PEO's guiding, they have 3 guiding pillars, and I really like these, and it helps me understand how I can align to them, and you can. And then PEO leadership, giving you a top level understanding of the PEO leadership, and then their different project offices. So 4 through 8 are these 5 different project offices. One of them is a little separate at the moment. I'll talk about that. But and then the last thing I want to talk about, and I'll try to save time for this, is how you can request meetings within PEO Enterprise. And I'm going to do it on a separate twist. Whether you want to meet with them or not, their process for working with them and getting a meeting is really creative, and I like it. It makes us think on the industry side. That's what I'm going to cover down on today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am founder of Call Plan AI, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. This is why I come back every single day. If you haven't followed me on LinkedIn already, join 43,000 other people and follow me on LinkedIn. I put out content that I believe is valuable to your journey to success in the federal market. I don't have my upcoming training coming back. I'm coming back after being sick, so I'm a little slow. I will have training every day this week. I'm just not putting it out long in advance. So just block 12 o'clock noon East Coast tomorrow and watch my LinkedIn profile for a notification. Okay, so let's start with just what is PEO Enterprise. And again, if you're just getting here, I'm not here speaking on behalf of PEO Enterprise. I'm putting my spin on their information. I want you to go and learn more with them, go to their events, talk to them, et cetera. But I want to give you a high level understanding of who they are, as if I was in your office talking with you. So the first thing is that they're leading the modernization effort for the Army's enterprise business systems. These systems, many of them are legacy. I was listening to somebody who just got an award this year in PEO Enterprise because they migrated and upgraded an application in there from COBOL to whatever modern language they're using right now. It was staggering to me because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were calling COBOL dead and very legacy, and it's still here. And these are the challenges PEO Enterprise is leading, trying to move their systems up to a modern era so they can actually deliver on the mission. PEO Enterprise supports 1.1 million soldiers out there and 330,000 civilians. So the entire Army base and then some around the country, or around the world, excuse me. They touch every Army domain, and you can go in and look at these domains if you're not familiar with them. Part of what I say sometimes is inspired to go, what is the domain? Let me go learn about those Army domains, because if I want to support the Army, I should know how they're doing it. So their systems and the work that they do, they touch on every domain, Army domain, branch, unit, down to the soldiers. Every soldier and civilian within the Army is impacted by what PEO Enterprise touches out there. And this is worldwide. It's a huge footprint that they're supporting. And what they support is a 24/7, 365 window, right? So if something's down, they're there supporting it to make sure the soldiers have what they need. On a budget standpoint, if you're thinking about contract dollars, which is always kind of fun, they manage $1.3 billion in appropriated funds with about 1,200 people. Those 1,200 people include military, civilian, and contractors. And so you can begin to get an understanding of where they're at. I think they're in 5 different states around the country. I think around the country, not globally. but 5 different states where there's a senior leader within each one of those locations, and then 14 other offices spread across the country. There are 143 contractors. I thought this was a really interesting point. 133 different government contracting firms, so businesses, that are delivering on 273 active contracts. That number might be a plus or minus at the moment, but that's a pretty big understanding. And for me, if I'm trying to get into PEO Enterprise, that piece of information alone is hugely valuable, because now I say to myself, well, I want to know who all 133 are. If I want to get into PEO Enterprise, then I want to be able to know every one of those 133 government contractors and see if I might be able to team up, if there's natural areas for us to team up on. And then I also want to know what those 273 active contracts are. I didn't take a moment to do this ahead of time, but I might go get their DODAC or something, the number that identifies with this office and what they're buying. I might chase that down and try to go, well, what are those 273 contracts? Which ones of them can I play in? That's not a lot of data for you to go gather and browse and take a few weeks to browse if you're really trying to support an organization like PEO Enterprise. Okay, so let me talk about these 3 pillars that I call them guiding pillars. They just call them the 3 pillars PEO Enterprise has. But I really like them because it aligns to, it tells me what I need to make sure I'm aligning with, or you need to align with, if we want to support PEO Enterprise. First thing is speed, right? They want to become agile practitioners to deliver earlier, faster, and more frequently. That's what I was talking about earlier. They're already doing this. Their adoption of agile was at the forefront of the Department of Defense, pushing it out there. And agile, if you're not familiar with it, the idea, like my phrase is fail fast. And fail fast doesn't mean you break something. It means try something, and if it works, great, do more of those little iterations forward. So you're getting soldiers something faster. And then fail fast could sometimes mean try it and it breaks you. Oh, it didn't work. Well, when you do it in an agile, smaller way, you're able to fail fast and recover, all of it driving towards delivering something to the soldiers, the practitioners faster. Soldiers faster. The second pillar is efficiency. Do more with fewer resources by centralizing capabilities, eliminating redundancies, and leveraging innovative techniques. This is what, if you've been tracking it all within the government, this is what's been happening anyways. The government went through DOGE, and they're looking through efficiency gains there. Department of War, Department of Defense, right? They just went through this huge initiative, and the Army's going through the same thing, where they're consolidating program executive offices down to these things called PAEs, which you can go figure out what those are, right? But in the Army, those are tending to be in the weapons areas. And in PEO Enterprise, they're also reorging down into different areas, where they went down from, I think, 5 to 4 different project offices, trying to consolidate the work in a way that brings efficiency within their organization. So that's really interesting in pursuing. And then the last one is excellence. Deliver better quality by testing every sprint, engaging customers earlier, and using automated testing. This is a big deal, right? So understanding, if I'm going to go support PEO Enterprise, I need to be thinking about speed, efficiency, and excellence. Everything I write in my proposal should lean towards that. If I'm writing to PEO Enterprise, here's how we align to these 3 pillars. When I do that, I'm speaking the customer's language. When you do that, you're speaking PEO Enterprise's language. Okay, so let's talk, and let me actually make this slide bigger and me smaller. Just really quick intro to the leaders, senior leadership. There's 2 levels of leaderships I want to show you. The first one here, you've just got the top level leadership with the PEO and the deputy PEO. I'm leaving off all these acting names because there's so many people in acting roles. But these 2 are leading the organization, right? And actually, my goal is to actually talk with Miranda and maybe get her on the show to be able to talk more, because on a lot of PEOs, the deputy is a small business kind of liaison as well, the industry, saying, hey, industry, this is what we need. These are the top challenges. But inside of PEO, on the senior leadership side, there's 3 direct reports to the PEO. And the first one is the CTO. So this person is, the CTO is focused on the automation, artificial intelligence, and other innovative implementations across PEO Enterprise. And then over to the right there, you see the assistant PEO for quality and transformation. This person ensures that the quality, that there's top quality within everything PEO does across all of their products and all of their services. And then there's another one here, Reginald Schuford at the bottom here with Consolidated Enterprise Resource Planning. This one's kind of an anomaly out there because right now he and that group, that office, report directly to the PEO. But I think the idea is it will shift so that it's then aligned with the other 4 program offices. But this is a relatively transitional or new office in here, and they're focused on the rationalization and management of their this consolidated ERP environment. So there's a lot of enterprise resource planning tools in there, and they're trying to figure out how do they bring them together. This office is handling sustainability, process streamlining, transitioning many different systems that you can go learn about these. There's so many of them. And if you go to their website, you'll see a lot of them listed, but they're trying to bring them all together under a unified agile management structure, which will make it a lot better. And for you, what I'd recommend is that if you have tools or services for system integration, ERP migration, or data migration, legacy to, remember COBOL, right? Legacy to modern technology or transformation, that's really important. If you do agile DevOps, DevSecOps, et cetera, if you do that kind of support, then this is a major entry point for you through this office, and you can reach out to these guys and to begin to have those conversations. So I said there's 4 project offices. I might have gone back and forth between calling them program and project, but there's 4 project office leaders, and these folks are people you want to follow. I'm going to talk more about their offices in a minute, but the 4 are Defense Integrated Business Systems, Integrated Personnel and Pay Systems, Army, Enterprise Services, and Enterprise Business Systems Convergence. And so that's pulling them all together. But these 4 leaders, the reason I put them down is I want you to find them online on social media. I talked about Colonel Paul here, who was, he puts out content a lot of times. He shared these, I think it was 12 lessons, could have been 10 lessons, but contract myths, I think it was. But understanding how a federal buyer is talking about what's going on within their organization and how you can learn. And when these people speak, we're able to learn so much more. It's as if we're having a meeting with them. I know it's hard sometimes to get a meeting, but it's not hard to hear what they're thinking. And this is an important lesson I learned from a CIO in the Army one time, where he was like, I don't have a problem meeting with people. I just don't like meeting with them and having them ask me what I think about artificial intelligence. For example, he goes, I just wrote like 3 white papers on what I think about artificial intelligence. I want you to come in more informed. Excuse me. So I put these people out here as a way for you to go follow them, find decks they've shared at different events, et cetera, or things they're posting on social media. You will hear what they're thinking and what their priorities are and how they see PEO Enterprise's priorities through their own lens. I want to do a quick thank you to Voltron. Voltron's our sponsor for our daily lives. They enable me to bring this training to you over and over again. So I really appreciate them, and I want you to check them out, especially as you're thinking about writing more proposals as you go into 2026. Voltron is an AI proposal writing shop. They're focused heavily on companies doing 50 million or more. But if you're a smaller business and you're writing sufficient responses back, then they can benefit you. And the reason I like them in particular is their heavy focus on federal government contracting. They're trying to become the expert on the federal side and not distract themselves with like global reach, et cetera. It's here in the federal space, and their ability to help us go from like a solicitation to a draft proposal in minutes instead of weeks is really, really valuable. So do me a favor, at the very least, thank Voltron in the chat. Just say thanks, Voltron. And if you're interested in learning more, reach out to them. Okay, doing fairly decent on time. So let me walk through these 4 program offices, maybe as we go forward, right? And beginning with DIBS, Defense Integrated Business Systems. It's the backbone of many of the Army's acquisition, training, readiness, and contract writing systems. speaking of Voltron, they got this, the government's got their own on the inside. They own systems like the Army contract writing system, the training management platform, and the readiness force preparation tools. So if your capability supports acquisition lifecycle, contract writing, or the training systems, readiness support, if you do any of that or anything that helps the Army manage contracts and procurement more efficiently, then DIBS is your line of sight. DIBS is the place you should be reaching out to. And I know I've got several people who are in the training today who are in that space. You want to match their mission, right? You want to match your company and your communication to their mission for agile business systems delivery. They've got that motto there, that business excellence at the speed of relevance. And I really like that, right? There's this way of looking at what the Army does at the speed of impact, speed of activity or action, the speed of relevance, aligning yourself to that. In this particular case, DIBS's motto is that, business excellence at the speed of relevance. So if that's you, reach out to DIBS. The Integrated Personnel and Pay System, Army. These guys are the Army's modern enterprise-wide HR and pay system, covering all personnel and force management across the force. I was talking about this globally, right? 24/7. Since its full rollout, more than 1 million unique users have logged into their systems. And so when you think about what can you support and the level of activity, that program now supports everything from pay and benefits to personnel actions, assignments, retirements, all of this under a single unified system. And it's pretty exciting for me to listen to this stuff or read it, because that's part of the task that I had in the Army. Before I went to the Secretary of the Army's office, I was doing a lot of this kind of action across the Army for I-Corps. And so it fits really well. If your small business has expertise in HR tech, personnel management, pay systems, workflow automation, especially on the HR side, or user experience improvements, if that's your world, that tightly aligns to what IPSA needs. And so I want to encourage you to reach out to them and learn more. Okay, so enterprise services, these are the PEO Enterprise's shop for enterprise-wide IT systems, communication, support infrastructure, et cetera. They manage common services that support many of those mission areas that the soldiers are focused in. Things like logistics, staff systems, enterprise IT support, staff management tools, acquisition and logistics technology, enterprise services, and other foundational capabilities that get the job done. If you sell tools related to cloud infrastructure, secure communication is a huge one, enterprise scaled services, service delivery, or cross-domain IT support, or anything else that enables the Army to run business as usual behind the scenes. If that's you, then Enterprise Services ES, that's your target, and you want to be reaching out to them. And the last group here is the Enterprise Business Systems Convergence. It's the Army's massive push to modernize, standardize, and converge its legacy ERP systems, or enterprise resource planning systems, especially across the finance and logistics function. I think they have 5 major systems, if I recall what I was learning about as I was doing my own research within there, within PEO Enterprise. But they're collapsing multiple legacy ERP systems like financial management, logistics, supply chain. They're collapsing them all under a unified modern enterprise backbone. And that means logistics flows, finance, supply chain, property accountability, all this stuff, everything from factory to foxhole is what they like to say, gets visibility, right? And that's really important. So if your offer helps on the ERP side, helps with the ERP modernization or data consolidation or process automation, if it helps with cloud native platforms or integrated logistics, financial, and asset management, then these guys are for you. EBSC is your foot in the door and the group that you really should be reaching out to. Okay, and the last group was the consolidated ERP. I had talked about these before, but these guys are bringing everything together into one program and applying that as an agile lens to the work and streamlining everything that they're doing. I already talked about it under the leadership side, but you can see some of the major programs they have in here. Each of these project offices have all these programs they're responsible for. And so as you get in and you learn more about them, you can begin to figure out, where do I fit? Do I fit in, at the top level, which project office do I fit in? And then coming down, which particular program do I most align with, or does our company most align with? This goes back to what I was saying earlier about, if you look at those 235 contract actions, then you can try to figure out which ones of those actions can we really contribute to. And so I want you to take a look at that and figure that out as you go forward. Last thing I wanted to mention is how to request a meeting. First off, I would highly recommend you don't request a meeting until you're totally prepared. And in my mind, totally prepared means you've met with at least 2 or 3 existing contractors supporting PEO Enterprise and just pick their brain. Hey, I'm going to be knocking on their door. I'd love to work with you in the future. But if you haven't done that, you haven't taken the time to research PEO Enterprise from the outside before knocking on the door to meet with them. But when you're ready, you can go to army.mil/enterprise, and on there it'll say request a meeting. But the part I put here, the bullets I put here are the what I thought was cool in the fields that could be really valuable to you. First off, these 6 questions are really spot on, because first, they're required fields. You need to be able to answer them when you go in. And this is how you're making a first impression before you go in. But they ask, what specific problem can you help solve? You should be asking yourself that on every single meeting that you have as you go in, right? What specific problem can we help solve? The second question, what is your meeting objective? I tell people all the time, set your objective. In this case, it's okay to transmit that to the federal buyer on PEO Enterprise side. What procurement are you pursuing? And I put in procurement for the long range acquisition forecast. When you go to /enterprise, you'll find their procurement forecast on their website, and it's updated a few months ago. And then, who are your top 3 competitors? I thought this was a really interesting one. I also think it's a horrible question, because there's just so much competition in the federal space. To pick my top 3, it's like, Microsoft, Boeing, and Booz Allen. It doesn't really fit in, right? But you do need to answer that. So you do need to think about it. What are your competitive differentiators? This is huge. It literally should be on your capability statement, right? And here, because you're looking at PEO Enterprise, you might tighten this up more. But when you really have to think about what problem you solve and what differentiator do you bring that makes them feel like you can solve the problem, you're really giving them the impression that it's worth meeting you and it's worth learning about what you have to share. And then the last thing they ask for is to summarize your relevant experience. They're not asking for past performance. They're saying, summarize your experience in a way that makes us feel like it's worth even meeting you, right? We're not trying to be uppity or something as PEO Enterprise. We're just saying, if your experience is building buildings, well, that's not us, right? So summarize your relevant experience to PEO's mission as we go forward. And again, you can go to army.mil/enterprise and you'll find their website and that form. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. 3 main things. First off, visit the PEO Enterprise website. I already told you that, and I think people are putting that into the chat if we're lucky. Second thing is, pick one project office you can support. And in fact, I would go one better and say one program office you can support, like the digital marketplace or something. Pick that and really come in and focus on that. That way, when you fill out your questionnaire, you're speaking to that one program. And then the last thing is, review the forecast that's on their website, the procurement forecast, see what's coming down the pike, as well as going to FPDS and find what they've awarded to before, so you can kind of build a consolidated PEO Enterprise sales pipeline. Hopefully you found this valuable. If you did, again, put PEO Rocks into the chat, PEO Enterprise Rocks in the chat. If you want help succeeding in the federal market, come join me on Call Plan AI. This is my new company where I'm building a tool out that's designed to help you have traction. When you go in to have these meetings, you have successful meetings that lead to relationships and move an opportunity forward towards that contract you're trying to win. So check it out. Don't forget to thank Voltron. I appreciate you coming into the training. Just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. By the way, if you liked this style of training, this is my first one. If you want me to do more training on key offices around DoD and civilian side, tell me more of the same. If you just put that in the chat, I'll know you appreciated it and I will do more. All right, I will see you in the next training.